The Vanishing Hitchhiker. A road trip horror story. It was supposed to be just another road trip. Three friends, Jake, Lena, and Chris, packed their bags, ready to leave behind noise, work, and people. Just open road, quiet landscapes, and maybe a little camping. No GPS. Just the thrill of getting lost on purpose. Hours into their drive, the sun dipped low and a fine mist started to gather. That's when they saw it. A tunnel. Not on any map. Not on the GPS. It looked ancient. Long, brick-lined, with ivy crawling over its mouth like a warning. Chris frowned. This doesn't feel right. Jake smirked, driving forward. Shortcut. What's the worst that could happen? The car entered the darkness. Inside the tunnel, it was pitch black. Their headlights struggled against the thick, damp air. Halfway through, the beam of light caught a figure. A girl. Standing on the shoulder. Alone. She wore a soaked white hoodie, her hair matted, head slightly bowed. Her thumb was out, asking for a ride. Jake slowed down, confused. What the hell is she doing here? She looks like she needs help, Lena said, her voice unsure. Chris whispered, people don't just walk in tunnels like this. But Jake rolled the window down. Need a ride? He asked. The girl nodded silently. She didn't smile. Didn't say thank you. Just opened the back door and sat beside Chris. Jake asked, where you heading? Home, she murmured. Past the tunnel. Her voice was hollow, like it was traveling from far away. They drove on. The fog thickened. 10 minutes later, Jake glanced in the mirror. The back seat was empty. Chris jolted. She's gone. They pulled over, jumped out, searched everywhere. No sign of her. Except the seatbelt. Still buckled. When they finally found a small roadside cafe, they stopped. No signs. No town name. Just a flickering, open sign. Inside, a few old patrons stared as they entered. Silent. Still. The woman behind the counter poured coffee before they even asked. You took the tunnel, she said flatly. Jake stiffened. How do you know? Everyone who sees her comes through there. Chris leaned in. Who is she? The woman's hand trembled slightly. A girl. Died a long time ago. Some say her car crashed. Others say she walked in and never walked out. She shows up, asks for a ride. If you say no, you're safe. Jake swallowed. And if you say yes? She comes with you. Lena looked pale. She vanished. But, she was in our car. The woman's eyes narrowed. Did she tell you her name? They shook their heads. Then you still have time. That night, they checked into a roadside inn. Old. Wooden. Almost too quiet. Jake couldn't sleep. At 2:17 a.m., his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Only static. Then, a voice. You said you'd take me home. He threw the phone across the room. Moments later, Lena knocked, shaking. Chris is gone. His bed was untouched. His bag still there. But no sign of him. Except, a photo on the nightstand. It was of the three of them, taken today. But in the photo, the girl in the hoodie stood behind Chris, her pale hand resting on his shoulder. Desperate and terrified, Jake and Lena drove back to the tunnel. The road was even darker than before. No signs. No birds. No wind. As they walked into the tunnel on foot, the temperature dropped. Their flashlights flickered. In the silence, they heard breathing. Then footsteps. Then her voice. You left me. She stepped out from the shadows, water dripping from her sleeves. Lena screamed. Jake stepped forward. We didn't know. We thought you vanished. You promised me, she said. You said you'd take me home. We still can, he whispered. The girl tilted her head. Then, smiled. Everything went black. Jake woke up in his car. Alone. His phone had no signal. The road behind him had disappeared. Fog surrounded everything. He turned on the engine and looked in the rearview mirror. She was there. In the back seat. Staring at him. You're not driving, she said softly. I am. And the car began to move on its own. Toward a place no map could show. The Monitor. A horror story about what watches back. Emily and Mark had just moved into a quiet suburban home with their 6-month-old baby, Noah. The house was nothing fancy. 2 stories, creaky floors, drafty windows, but it was affordable. And it had a nursery already painted light blue. Perfect, they thought. They bought a top-of-the-line baby monitor. Camera with night vision. 2-way audio. Motion detection. So Emily could keep an eye on Noah from downstairs or while cooking. On the 3rd night, as rain tapped softly on the windows, the monitor crackled with static. Emily paused mid-sip of her tea. Then came a voice. But not Noah's. He's not alone. Emily froze. She stared at the monitor. Noah was asleep, peaceful, clutching his tiny blanket. The room was still. She rewound the footage. Watched it again. The voice was faint, distorted, and deep. A whisper, but not human. Not quite. She ran upstairs. Checked every corner of the room. No one. Nothing. Mark laughed when she told him. Probably a radio interference. Happens all the time. But Emily had a feeling. This wasn't interference. It was intentional. Over the next few days, the monitor acted stranger. Sometimes it turned itself on, without being touched. Sometimes it made breathing noises. And once, it laughed. Not a baby's giggle. But something low. Mocking. Male. At 3:12 a.m., the motion alert triggered. Emily checked the live feed. The crib was empty. Her heart dropped. She raced upstairs, only to find Noah asleep in her bed. She didn't remember moving him. Mark swore he didn't either. The next morning, Emily checked the playback. At 2:57 a.m., a tall dark shape leaned over the crib, and whispered something into Noah's ear. Then picked him up. Emily contacted the company that made the baby monitor. The tech support rep was silent for a moment after hearing the details. Then he asked, "Have you used this monitor in any other homes?" "No," Emily replied. "Why?" He hesitated. "Because, that model isn't supposed to receive audio from outside sources. Only from your room. There's no frequency overlap. No way someone can speak through it without being there." Emily hung up. That night, she heard it again. Through the monitor. A voice. Clearer this time. "You can't keep him forever." Emily set up her phone to record the nursery overnight. She placed a second baby monitor, an older analog one, as a backup. At 3:17 a.m., both monitors turned on at the same time. The nursery door creaked open. On the video, no one was there. But the door opened anyway. Slowly. Deliberately. Then, a second lullaby started playing. They didn't own a music box. The next morning, the walls of the nursery had faint handprints. High up. Too high for a baby. Too high even for Emily. Digging through the attic, Mark found a dusty shoebox tucked behind an old beam. Inside were Polaroid photos. A baby. A crib. The same nursery. But the photos were old. Faded. In the last photo, a tall figure stood in the background, almost blurred into the wall. Holding something. A monitor. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "He won't sleep unless the man sings first." Emily made a decision. She unplugged the monitor. Threw it out. But that night, even without it, the monitor light turned on by itself. And from inside the nursery came a voice. "You took him. I'm taking him back." Noah began to cry, then scream. They rushed into the room. And saw the monitor. Back in its place. Recording. Streaming. To somewhere else. The empty unit upstairs. Some places are never truly vacant. I moved into my apartment on a rainy Thursday. 3rd floor, end of the hallway. Quiet. Cheap. Too good to be true. The landlord, an old man with sunken eyes and yellowing teeth, handed me the key and said, "You're lucky. No neighbors above. That unit's been empty a long time." That night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Footsteps. Slow. Pacing. Directly above me. I stared at the ceiling, waiting for it to stop. It didn't. The next morning, I asked the landlord if someone had moved into the apartment above me. He looked at me too long before answering. "No." "Then why?" I hesitated. "Why do I hear footsteps up there every night?" He frowned. "You shouldn't. Is it rats? Pipes?" He just muttered, "You'll get used to it," and walked away. That night, I stayed up. I turned everything off. Sat in the dark. Waited. 2:18 a.m., it started again. Step. 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 Then, it stopped. Right above me. I stared upward. Then I heard it. A slow, deliberate drag. Like someone sliding their palm across the floor, feeling for something. Then a whisper. "You hear me now?" Curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the better of me. The next day, while the landlord was distracted with maintenance, I slipped upstairs. Apartment 4B. The hallway felt colder here. The air, thicker. I tried the door. Locked. But something scraped behind it. Like fingernails on the other side. I knocked. Silence. Then a whisper, right against the wood. "Go back downstairs." I started dreaming. In one, I was in the hallway outside 4B. The door was open, just a crack. Inside was nothing. No furniture. No lights. But a shape stood in the far corner. Tall. Thin. Wrong. Its head turned, even though it had no face. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The next morning, I found a trail of dusty footprints in my apartment. Leading from my bed to the ceiling. I checked the building's online records. 4B hadn't been rented in 12 years. The last tenant, a woman named Marie Hallow, vanished. No trace. No forwarding address. Neighbors had complained of screams. Of footsteps. Of crying. The official report said, "Apartment 4B has been sealed due to repeated disturbances and structural anomalies." Anomalies? I began to notice things. My lights flickered, always at 2:18 a.m. My mirror would fog, despite no shower. And sometimes, in the silence, the sound of something breathing. One night, unable to take it anymore, I climbed onto a chair. Placed my ear to the ceiling. Silence. Then a knock. From the other side. I found the spare key. I waited until night. I climbed the stairs with shaking hands. Door to 4B groaned open. Inside, dust. Cobwebs. Rotting walls. But the footprints were fresh. Leading in a circle, over and over. As if someone, or something, had been walking endlessly for years. In the corner, an old baby monitor sat on the floor. It clicked on. He finally came upstairs. I explored the apartment, flashlight shaking. On the bedroom wall, words were scratched over and over. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. But below all that, a newer set of words. He walks when I sleep. He watches from the ceiling. He wants someone to replace him. Then I heard the door slam shut. I tried to leave. The door wouldn't budge. The hallway was gone. Just endless dark. I looked up. The ceiling above me began to split open, like a jaw. Something was crawling down. Bones creaked. Joints popped. Its eyes were wrong. Too many. Too human. It smiled. You're upstairs now. The boy at the door. He says he lives here. He might be right. The first time it happened, I thought it was a dream. A knock. Soft. Repetitive. Tap. 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 I glanced at my phone. 2:44 a.m. I hesitated, walked slowly to the door, peeked through the peephole. A boy stood there. Maybe 6 or 7 years old. Pale. Black hoodie. Barefoot. He looked up at the camera by the door and said, "I live here." I didn't open it. The next morning, I checked with the building manager. No reports of missing kids, she said. And nobody that age lives on this floor. I shrugged it off. Maybe a prank. But that night, at the same time. Tap. 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 I opened the door this time. He just stood there. Same clothes. Same words. I live here. Can I come in now? There was no emotion in his voice. No blinking. I shut the door. He didn't leave for 3 hours. Things started to change. My TV turned on by itself. Always playing static. My lights flickered at 2:44 a.m. And the house felt different. Like someone had rearranged the air. I found a crayon drawing on my kitchen table one morning. It wasn't mine. It showed a stick figure standing by a door. Outside, a smaller figure waited. Red excess over its eyes. On the back, written in a child's hand. Let me back in. I installed a camera outside my door. That night, I watched the live feed. 2:44 a.m. He appeared again. Same boy. Only this time, when he spoke. It was my voice. Distorted. Slightly off. I live here. Let me in. I tried to report it. The police said no child matched the description. No footprints. No evidence on the footage. Worse, the apartment office said my unit had only ever had one tenant since it was built. Me. But the boy had said something last night, something new. You're in my room. I started hearing sounds inside my apartment, coming from behind the guest room door. Scratching. Like nails on wood. I never used that room. It was always empty. Until it wasn't. One night, I opened the door and found a child's mattress on the floor. Toys lined up perfectly against the wall. And a crayon drawing taped to the mirror. Welcome home. I found a torn piece of notebook under the floorboards of the guest room. Just a few pages. Scribbled notes. Doodles of a house. And one final sentence, written over and over. He never left. He just got quiet. The last page was stained with something brown. Almost like dried blood. It ended with, "If he knocks, don't answer twice." I didn't sleep that night. The boy came again. He stared into the camera. Then knocked again. Knock. 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 I didn't answer. So he said, "You already let me in once." Things escalated. Reflections no longer matched my movements. I'd close a drawer and see my reflection keep pulling. Sometimes I'd blink, and my reflection wouldn't. Then I heard it. Not through the door, but inside the apartment. From the guest room. Tap. 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 I opened the door. He stood there. Smiling. "You're living in my body. I want it back." I tried to leave the apartment. Packed a bag. Ran. But no matter how far I drove, I always ended up back at the same hallway. Same door. Same unit. And the moment I stepped inside, it felt like a lock clicked behind me. That night, at 2:44 a.m., I looked at my reflection again. This time, it smiled. I didn't. From the hallway, I heard a knock. And my own voice said, "I live here. Can I come in now?" Buried too shallow. Some things should never be unearthed. I couldn't sleep. Insomnia had turned me into a nighttime observer. I'd sit by my upstairs window and just watch. On this particular night, the clock read 3:12 a.m., and I saw my neighbor digging. He was in his backyard. Shirtless. Mud smeared across his arms. His motions frantic. He kept looking around like he didn't want anyone to see. But I saw. He was burying something. It wasn't trash. It was moving. My neighbor had always been odd. Lived alone. Kept to himself. Never spoke. The kind of guy who made you lock your doors a little tighter. That morning, I watched as he came out with a fresh cup of coffee, standing right over the freshly disturbed earth. He didn't look tired. He looked satisfied. And from my window, I could swear the dirt was still shifting. I went to his fence. Just to peek. The soil had sunken overnight, like something underneath had pressed upward. There were tiny cracks in the dirt. Like fingernail trails. And the smell. Like old meat. Then I heard it. Scratching. From below. I backed away. Curiosity finally got the better of me. Late the next night, while my neighbor was out, I hopped the fence and approached the mound. I brought a small flashlight. I shouldn't have dug. Because just a few inches under, I hit skin. Cold. Pale. But it twitched. I fell back in horror. And then. It smiled at me. I started having nightmares. In them, I was buried alive. Trapped in a wooden box. Scratching. Always scratching. And in the dream, someone opened the lid, and it was me, staring down, smiling. The next morning, I found a pile of dirt by my back door. Like something had come to visit. I finally confronted my neighbor. He didn't deny it. Instead, he looked over my shoulder and whispered, "You saw it, didn't you?" I nodded. He closed his eyes, sighed deeply, and said, "It wants a witness. That's how it gets out." Then he locked his door behind him. That was the last time I saw him alive. He disappeared the next day. No car. No lights. Mail piling up. I called the cops. They searched. Found nothing. Except for the backyard. The mound had been dug up from the inside. And the cops? They said it was just an animal hole. But I knew better. Because that night, at 3:12 a.m., I saw a shape move through my yard. Dragging something long and thin. I started hearing scratching in my walls. Then under my bed. I woke up one night with dirt under my fingernails. Another night, I found muddy footprints in my hallway. And a message scrawled on my bathroom mirror. Help me finish digging. I started looking into who had lived in that house before my neighbor. Turns out, 4 tenants in the last 6 years. All vanished. No explanation. Each time, neighbors reported weird behavior, sleeplessness, and a smell of rotting soil. Only one entry stood out, a note from the first owner. It was never a house. It was a hole. The house just grew around it. Last night, I found a shovel propped up by my back door. A note was taped to it. It's your turn. At 3:12 a.m., I heard it again. Scratching. Whispers under the floorboards. And a voice, just barely a whisper, saying, almost out. Thank you. Echo chamber. There's a room that knows me better than I know myself. It started with a noise. A soft knock from the basement wall. I thought it was the pipes. Or maybe rats. But when I went down with a flashlight, I noticed something strange. A section of the concrete wall sounded hollow. Like there was something behind it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. That sound. That feeling. So I brought out my tools. And I started digging. The wall gave way easier than it should have. Behind it was a narrow passage, only a few feet wide, and beyond that, a room. Dusty. Dark. Silent. And inside, a shelf full of VHS tapes. All labeled by date. Every single day, going back years. And a small TV with a built-in player. I picked one randomly. March 12th, Monday. I pressed play. And I watched myself eating breakfast. At the exact same table. With the same coffee mug. Wearing the same shirt I had on right now. I watched more. Each tape showed me, but from strange angles. Brushing my teeth. Sleeping. Crying in the shower. Private moments I didn't even know were visible. Moments no one could have filmed. Moments I hadn't lived yet. One tape was labeled, tomorrow. I didn't watch it. Not yet. I checked the room again in daylight. There were wires along the walls. Microphones. Tiny, ancient cameras hidden in corners. A panel of switches. A red button labeled record. And on a desk, pages and pages of handwritten notes. Subject's routine continues. Emotion stable. Still unaware. Each page was dated. Logged. Cold. Clinical. And signed. OM. I tried to break the system. Deviate from my routine. I stayed out all night. Took new routes. Left town. But the tapes kept coming. I'd come back and find fresh ones sitting in the VCR tray. Still capturing everything. Even my time away. Then one day, I saw it on tape. While I was watching the basement feed, I saw myself walk down the stairs. Except I was sitting in the chair. Watching. On the screen, the other me walked straight to the camera. Stared into it. And whispered. You're in the wrong room. Then the tape cut out. Everything began to feel wrong. My reflection would move just a split second behind. Phone calls ended in static. My own voice started to feel unfamiliar. Then I found a tape labeled replacement ready. And a note that simply read, he'll know what to do. He always does. Digging deeper into the hidden room, I found a trapdoor under the floorboards. It led to another space. Smaller. Tighter. Inside were bones. Some small. Some adult-sized. And on the wall, scrawled in charcoal, Do not become the recording. I tried to burn the room. Destroy the tapes. Tear down the walls. But the next morning, it was all back. Rebuilt. Reset. The tapes were there again. Except now, there was a new one in the player. Labeled with today's date. I pressed play. On screen, I was watching a tape. Then something walked up behind me. It was me. Smiling. Holding a hammer. Now, I hear the VCR running even when it's off. The walls whisper. And sometimes, I see myself in places I never stood. I don't know if I'm the watcher or the watched anymore. But one thing is certain. The tapes won't stop. Because maybe I was always in the wrong room. Not so imaginary. Some friends never leave. We moved into the new house in early spring. Fresh paint. Empty rooms. A new start. My daughter, Ellie, is 5. Bright, curious, chatty. And on the third day in the new place, she told me something strange. Mommy, Lila lives in the closet. She says she likes your hair. I laughed. Kids and their imagination, right? At first, it was innocent. Ellie would set up tea parties for 2. Whisper to empty corners. Draw pictures of a girl in a long white dress with no eyes. When I asked about the eyes, she just said. Lila said she gave them away to someone who needed them more. Still, I brushed it off. Kids are weird. Until I found 2 teacups in the closet. One of them was warm. Ellie started sleeping with the closet door open. Said Lila didn't like being locked in. She started insisting on setting an extra plate at dinner. Then she gave me a list of rules, handwritten in crayon. 1. Don't close the closet door after 9 p.m. 2. Don't turn off all the lights. 3. Don't talk to Lila if she talks to you. 4. Never look at her reflection. What happens if I do? I asked her. Ellie just looked down and whispered, you'll switch places. One night, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. I could hear Ellie whispering in her room. I crept to her door, slowly peeked in. She was sitting up in bed, facing the closet. I couldn't hear her words, until I caught one. No, Mommy didn't mean to. Please don't be mad. I stepped in. She turned to me with wide, terrified eyes. And said, run. I started seeing things. Movement in the bathroom mirror. Shadows in the hallway. The baby monitor would turn on by itself, broadcasting whispering voices. One night, while brushing my teeth, I looked up. And in the mirror, Ellie was standing behind me. But she wasn't there when I turned around. And the girl in the mirror? She had no eyes. I found a notebook under Ellie's bed. Inside were drawings. Dozens of them. Some were of our house, but different. Darker. Rotting. Some showed 2 Ellies, one smiling, one crying. And some were of a door. Always the same. A wooden door inside the closet. One I had never seen. Until I checked the closet floor again. And noticed a faint outline. The floorboard was loose. Underneath it, a small wooden door, barely big enough for a child to crawl through. It was warm. And pulsing. Like it was breathing. I tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. Until I whispered. Lila. The door opened on its own. It was a tunnel. Low and tight. I followed it, heart pounding, until it opened into a space, black and silent. And in the center, sitting on a rocking chair. Ellie. Except it wasn't Ellie. She looked older. Worn. Her eyes were wide, but empty. And she whispered. She took my name. She took my face. Help me. From behind me, I heard footsteps. The other Ellie stood there, smiling. I like this mommy better. I pulled the real Ellie out of the chair. But the moment we reached the tunnel entrance, the door slammed shut. Lila, no, the other Ellie, was on the other side, whispering. One in. One out. That's the rule. So I turned back. But the chair was empty. We made it back to the bedroom. Somehow. But Ellie hasn't been the same. She eats differently. Draws in silence. Her laughter sounds wrong. Last night, I caught her staring into the mirror, not blinking, for almost an hour. Then she looked at me and said, "Mommy, I like your hair. The road that never ends. Some roads should never be traveled after dark." It started innocently enough. I was driving home after a long day. A simple trip. Just me, my car, and the open road. The sun had already set, leaving only the pale glow of headlights illuminating the path. It was late, 2 a.m., and I hadn't seen another car for miles. It was the kind of quiet that felt wrong, but I tried to shake it off. One more hour, I told myself. But then, I saw him. A figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes. The figure didn't move. Just stood there. Too still. I honked the horn. Nothing. Maybe it was just a hitchhiker, I thought. But why was he standing there in the middle of nowhere, at this hour? I considered driving around him. But something stopped me. I wasn't sure if it was fear, or something else, something in my gut telling me to stay still. He began walking toward my car. My heart raced. I knew I should have driven off, but I couldn't move. It was like I was paralyzed by his presence. The man was still coming closer. His steps were slow, almost deliberate. Then, without warning, he started to run, fast, like a burst of energy. Straight toward my car. I didn't think. I threw the car into reverse and floored the gas pedal, skidding backward. My heart was in my throat as I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was still there, chasing me. I didn't look back for long, but I couldn't shake the feeling he was there, just out of sight, waiting. I turned the wheel hard, swerving onto a different road, a smaller side route, hoping to lose him. But as I did, the headlights flashed across something strange, a second figure standing on the edge of the road, barely visible in the darkness. Who were these people? I didn't stop to ask. The more I drove, the less I recognized the road. It started to feel like I wasn't making any progress. The signs became less familiar, and I couldn't recall where I had last seen a turnoff or intersection. I checked the GPS. It was stuck, showing a route I'd already passed twice. The road stretched endlessly in front of me. Time seemed to stretch and fold in on itself. I'd been driving for what felt like hours, but there was no sign of progress. The road hadn't changed. I saw the man again. Far ahead, standing in the middle of the road, his back turned to me. This time, I didn't slow down. I drove straight toward him. And when I passed by, he was gone. Just like that. I tried to focus on the road ahead, but the unease kept creeping back. I was alone. The air felt thick, suffocating. And then, I heard it. A soft, muffled whisper, like someone was sitting in the back seat, but I was alone. I swerved, but no one was there. "Why are you running?" the voice whispered. I decided to stop. The car felt like it was driving in circles, going nowhere, no matter how many times I took a different turn. Every path led me back to that same road, the same endless stretch of asphalt. I stopped in the middle of the street, turned off the engine, and sat in the dark, just breathing. And that's when I saw it. Another car. Off in the distance. I waited, but it never came closer. It was as if it was standing still, just out of reach. I turned my headlights on, desperate to get some sort of clarity, but when they hit the road ahead, the man was there again, staring straight at me, his face expressionless. I couldn't move. It was like my body wouldn't respond. My mind was frozen in fear. I could feel the sweat on my palms, my chest tightening with every second. Then, without warning, he started walking again. Slowly. Toward me. I couldn't tell if he was real or if he was a hallucination. I tried to start the car. It sputtered, stalled, and then the engine roared to life. I drove faster than I ever had before, speeding down the road as fast as I could, not caring what was ahead. I glanced back. He was still running after me. I don't know how much time passed. How long I drove. It was as if time and space didn't matter anymore. But then, something happened. I reached a fork in the road. A sign finally appeared. I couldn't believe it. It was a town name. One I recognized. I slammed the brakes and stared at the sign, unsure whether I should go toward it or turn away. Before I could decide, a car approached from behind. A car that looked like mine. The same make, same model. But the driver? It was me. And then I heard that whisper again. I'll see you again. The call that never ends. Some calls are better left unanswered. I've worked as a 911 operator for over 7 years now. I've heard it all, accidents, fires, robberies. But one call, one particular call, has stuck with me. It was late, around 2 a.m., when I first answered it. The number came through as blocked, which wasn't unusual, but something about the call felt different. The voice on the other end was trembling. I'm in danger, please help me. I thought it was a prank, a drunk dialing in the middle of the night. But something in the voice, the desperation, made me pause. I tried to ask for more details, but the voice cut in. Please, they're coming. The line went dead. The call came again a week later. Same number. Same voice. I'm in danger, please help me. This time, I asked the voice where they were, but all I got was a faint whisper. I can't tell you, they're listening. I tried to track the call. No location came up. The line was dead, just like last time. After the third time it happened, I started to wonder, was this some kind of game? A prank caller trying to mess with me? But something told me it wasn't. Weeks passed, and the calls kept coming. Every time, the same thing, a desperate voice, asking for help. And every time, I was powerless. I've tried everything, tracing the number, contacting my supervisor, trying to record the voice. But the calls always seemed to come from nowhere, no traceable number, no IP address, no physical location. I even tried to block the number, but it always got through. There were nights when I couldn't sleep, when the voice kept echoing in my head. They're coming for me. Help me. I had to know who it was. Why were they calling me? Then one night, I got something different. The voice didn't speak. It just stayed there. I could hear the faint sound of breathing, shuffling. Like someone was pacing, or hiding. I waited, but no words came. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. And then, just as I was about to hang up, I heard a whisper. I'm here. A chill ran through me. That voice, it sounded like someone I knew, someone from my past. But that was impossible, wasn't it? Months passed. I was haunted by the calls, by the voice that never stopped pleading for help. One night, after another call, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I dug through old files, old records, past calls, and the archives from when I first started at 911. Then, I found it. A missing persons report from 10 years ago. A woman who had gone missing in the same area where the calls were originating from. Her name was Sarah Blake. Her last known call. It was a 911 call. A desperate plea for help. The voice on the other end of the line in that call was eerily familiar. I don't know how, but the calls started to change. The voice was less frantic, more knowing. More calm. One night, the call came again. But this time, it was different. You've been helping me for so long. It's time for me to help you. The line went silent for a moment. Then I heard it. The same voice, but this time, much closer. Look behind you. I froze. I turned slowly, heart pounding. My office was empty, just like it had been when I sat down. No one was there. But when I glanced at the screen, I saw something. A new number was listed. A number that hadn't been there before. A call coming through to me from my own phone number. I don't know if I'll ever answer that last call. I've tried to quit, but somehow, every time I close the system, the number shows up again. The calls don't stop. The voice never leaves. I've even been contacted by the police, who found no evidence of anyone calling from my number, or any connection to Sarah Blake's disappearance. They couldn't even explain why the calls were coming. But I know something's not right. I think the voice has always been me. The house that walks. Sometimes, it's not the walls that are haunted. I had just moved into the house a week ago. A fresh start. A new chapter in my life. The house was older, but it had a certain charm about it. Wooden floors, high ceilings, and a cozy atmosphere. It was exactly what I was looking for, quiet, peaceful, away from the noise of the city. At first, everything seemed perfect. I unpacked, settled in, and enjoyed the solitude. It was supposed to be my sanctuary. But it didn't take long for things to change. It was my first night in the house when I heard it. A soft creak. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, a common sound with older buildings. But then, the creak turned into a distinct step. A footstep. I froze. I live alone. No one else was supposed to be in the house. I told myself I was just being paranoid, so I went to bed, trying to ignore the sounds coming from upstairs. The footsteps continued the next night. And the night after that. They weren't loud, but they were clear. A steady rhythm of footsteps pacing back and forth. It started around midnight and would last for hours. I tried to rationalize it, maybe it was the old plumbing or the house shifting in the cold night air. But deep down, I knew there was something more. One night, after hearing the footsteps for hours, I decided to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously made my way up the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. The house was silent. Too silent. When I reached the top of the stairs, the footsteps stopped. I was alone. The hallway was empty. But the feeling of being watched never left. Days turned into weeks, and the footsteps became more frequent. I would hear them at odd hours, sometimes during the day, other times late at night. It was as if something, or someone, was pacing, just above me, walking back and forth in the same spot, never stopping. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then, one night, I heard something else. A whisper. It was faint, but it was there. You're not alone. I turned around quickly, heart racing. No one was there. The house was empty, just as it always was. But the whisper echoed in my ears, growing louder each night. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what was causing these sounds. I decided to go into the attic, the only place I hadn't explored fully. It had always been locked when I first moved in, and the landlord had never mentioned anything about it. I pried open the old door, and the musty smell hit me immediately. The attic was filled with old boxes and furniture, covered in dust. I took the flashlight and began rummaging through the items. Old photographs, broken furniture, and strange objects. Then, I found something odd, an old wooden box. It was tucked away in the corner, almost hidden. I opened it. Inside, there was nothing but a single worn-out boot. It was strange, unsettling. It didn't belong to me, but there it was, as if someone had left it there deliberately. I needed to know more. I started researching the history of the house, and what I found sent chills down my spine. The house had once belonged to an elderly couple. They had both died in the house, but the most disturbing part was their story. The husband had gone missing years before his death, and rumors said he had been heard pacing the halls for weeks before his body was found. The wife? She had reportedly gone mad, constantly speaking about footsteps upstairs, even though no one had been there. I wasn't sure if I believed in ghosts, but after everything that had happened, I wasn't so sure anymore. One night, after another long day of hearing the footsteps, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to leave. I packed up a few things and decided to drive away, get some distance from the house, even if it was just for the night. But when I returned, the door was wide open. I hadn't left it like that. I stepped inside, the feeling of dread settling over me again. I could hear the footsteps upstairs, louder than ever, coming down the hallway, closer and closer. I froze in place. The whisper came again. "You're not alone. You never have been." Suddenly, the light above me flickered, and for a brief moment, I saw it. A shadow, standing in the doorway. A figure, just outside the light. I moved out the next day. I never found out who, or what, was walking around in that house. But I couldn't stay. The feeling of being watched, the whispering, the footsteps, it was too much. I sold the house, but I'm sure someone else is hearing the same sounds now. And I don't know if I'll ever escape the echo of those footsteps, following me, wherever I go.